Ladies and gentlemen, as we begin our services, if we can please kindly turn off all cell phones or electronic devices, or please place them on silent. Thank you.
Welcome. A loving father, a proud and committed grandfather, an immensely devoted husband, a hard worker, a world traveler, along with Judy, who met Ted when she was just 14 years old and was married to him for 61 years, I learned. A proud Jew, and as Judy told me, a gentle giant at 6'4", right? 6'4". Ted Spivak was a sports fan holding his Eagles season tickets for decades. An avid tennis player. He would play and then go with his friends and their spouses to Ponzios, perhaps some of you, every Tuesday for many decades. I admit, though, that unlike most of you, I didn't know Ted in life. I only came into contact with this family upon word of his passing. But I did get to spend some time, though, with his wife Judy and his 3 loving children, with Mike and Carol and Debbie, who shared with me some of who Ted was to them. They shared with me about their husband and father, his passions, his strength, his warmth, and his love of family. I learned that he had 7 grandchildren by birth and 1 soon by marriage. Mazel tov to Mark and Brittany on your engagement, by the way. Totaling 8 grandchildren. And 8 immediately set off a bell in my head, because it's an auspicious number, particularly at this moment in time. It's during this, the darkest time of the year, that Jews around the world celebrate Hanukkah, the festival of lights. We light a very special kind of menorah called a Chanukiah, which has 8 branches, each branch representing the expanding miracle, the miracle of the oil lasting for 8 days. Tonight, we light the full menorah as we prepare to begin the 8th day of Hanukkah. Except there's also one more candle on that Hanukkah menorah, the shamash, the helper candle, that lights all of the other lights. You can tell where I'm going. I offer to you that perhaps Ted, not only for his grandchildren, but also for you, was in many ways a shamash, a helper candle, that kindled the lights found in each of the neshamot, the souls of each of his grandchildren, and also in you as well. When you look at the lit menorah this evening, as you gather as a family, following our time together, consider the light that Ted brought in your role moving forward and carrying that light, the light of your shamash, forward. And Judy, a word directly to you. I know we just met the other day. We sat across from each other, and when sitting with you and your family, I could see the love that your children have for you. I see it right now, too. This room is filled with people who love you. And there's 2 mitzvot that get performed together, that get performed today during our time together. The first is called Kavod Hamet, honoring the deceased. And for most of our time together today, we keep our kavanah, our intention, on Ted's memory, just as you've spent the last 15 months caring for him so deeply. Closer to the conclusion of our time together at Locust Wood, we transition to supporting the mourners when we say Mourner's Kaddish for the first time. Encourage you to enter this new time period of being a mourner by allowing those who love you to hold you up as you navigate forward in life. 61 years of marriage and knowing each other since being children. I can't, and I imagine many of us can't, fully understand what you're feeling. And there are no words that can provide adequate comfort. But God willing, the presence of your family and friends and loved ones around you will help you as you take the next step forward. Our Jewish tradition teaches that while the physical body is temporary, the soul is eternal. So today, we gather for sacred purpose, to pray for full and complete rest for Ted's body. We focus on the fact that his soul, even in death, remains bound to the bond of life, to each of you, and we seek blessings for the continued elevation of his soul. It's my prayer that our time together today have purpose, that it hold deep meaning, and may it honor well Ted's memory, who passed away on Tuesday morning. My name's Rabbi Nathan Weiner. I'm the Director of Jewish Outreach and Engagement for the Jewish Federation of Southern New Jersey. And it's an honor truly on behalf of myself, my family, the Federation and its family of agencies, and the Jewish people to be present with each of you here today. We note that while this is a full chapel full of the love and support of those present, there are also many who are joining us virtually on the stream. So I welcome you as well, those seeing us through the camera. I offer words of welcome and invite you to know that your presence is felt as well here in this chapel. So as I mentioned, today we mourn the loss and celebrate the life of Ted Spivak, Tuvia Pesach ben Rivka. Ted is predeceased by his sisters, Sonia and Diana, both of blessed memory. He's survived by his loving wife of 61 years, as I mentioned, Judy, his children, Mike and his wife Susan, Carol and her husband Ted and Debbie, and the 8 lights on the menorah, his grandchildren, Shayna, Mark and his fiancée Brittany, and Morgan, David, Steph, Sammy, and Matthew. I think I got a name wrong, did I? I got them all right. Stephen, thank you. I left off the N by accident is what happened. Apologies. I knew it was wrong. We also note his stepbrother David and his wife Joan. May your love for one another, God willing, carry you through this difficult transition. It's traditional at moments of loss and grief to offer words from Tehillim, from Psalms. And I'm going to offer Psalm 23, a psalm universal across the Abrahamic faith traditions at moments of loss and grief. I'll read it first in the Hebrew, followed by reading a standard English translation. And if you're comfortable in either language and would like to, you're welcome to say it with me. Mizmor leDavid, Adonai ro'i lo achsar, binot deshe yarbitzeni al mei menuchoti nahaleni. Nafshi yeshovev yancheni b'maglei tzedek leman shemo. Gam ki elech bagetz al mavet lo irara ki atay imadi. Shivtecha umishantecha hema yenachamuni. Ta'aroch lefanai shulchan neged zorarai, tishanta v'shemen roshi kosi ravaya. Ach tov v'chesed yirdefuni kol yemei chayai. V'shavti b'veit Adonai le'orech yamim. A Psalm of David. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever and ever. Amen Amen. From Kohelet Ecclesiastes, there is a time for everything, a season for every activity under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to scatter stones and a time to gather them up, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to search and a time to give up, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to mend, a time to be silent and a time to speak. This is certainly a time for speaking, as Ted's children will join me up on the bima to offer words of a hesped, of a eulogy, to raise up the kavod, the honor and dignity of their father. Mike, Carol, and Debbie.
As Susan, my wife, and my kids would tell me, I am not one to show emotion or show my feelings unless I'm playing sports or coaching Susan's softball team. So this is not really easy for me, and it's not something I'm comfortable doing, but here we go. I could talk about my dad, his childhood, how I worked with him most of my life, stories he told, the friends he had, but I'm going to keep it short and just talk about a couple of my few favorite memories with him. When I was young, one of my favorite memories was going to the Eagles games with him. He loved the Eagles. He would be yelling at the TV when Jaworski would throw an interception or when the Eagles lost, which was a lot in the early to mid-'70s. And then one day he said, I have 3 of my friends and their sons were going to go to the games. This was probably 1975 or 76. So we went to every game together. Then we would gather with all the rest of the families for dinner after the games. And it was great. The 1980 championship game was my greatest sporting event I've ever been to, and I was glad that I was with him. We've had these tickets for almost 50 years. And one of my father's oldest friends, Elliot's son, Mitchell, and I are still going to the games with our kids, and hopefully we'll pass it on to their kids once they get older or have them. As I got older, one of my favorite things to do was go to Florida and play tennis with my dad and all his friends. It was an event every morning. They would all tell me how great my dad was and what a nice guy, and he was decent in tennis, and we would play, be great. But the best part was after every single time we played, which is, if I'm there for a week, it was 6 days or whatever it was, they would be debating on where to go for lunch, who had the coupons, what was the best price, and their favorite was the $1.50 Costco hot dog and soda. Meanwhile, all of his friends as well as himself were retired at this point and didn't really have to worry about money. Then my dad, with all his grandkids, he loved all his grandkids and had a relationship with all of them. He especially was close with my son Mark, who as a young boy and now he would go to lunch with him every week, no matter what. He would go there just to hang out with him. And it really warmed my heart that they had such a good relationship together. The last year and a half of his life was not so easy. Multiple surgeries, radiation, walker, wheelchair bound, really slowed him down. But the only thing he would constantly say to me is that, number one, he didn't want to be a burden on his kids. And number two, he wanted to make sure that my mom was okay. He would tell me that he was so grateful for myself and my sisters that would take him to doctor's appointments and come to the house and bring food. And all I would tell him was it was just good parenting, that family is what's important, and that's what we do. As the rabbi said, my parents were married for over 60 years, and they were each other's best friends, soulmates. As my mom told the rabbi on Tuesday, they were joined at the hip. She was the caretaker for my dad and did everything for him. Learned on the fly how to give him the best care that she could. Also, the last 6 months, we had a godsend. We'll get some help for my mom, Inez, who my parents loved and my dad loved very much. And whether she likes it or not, she's part of our family now. In closing, the loss of my dad is a huge loss for my mom, us, my kids, friends, family. And I know that he wouldn't want you to think about that, but just think about all the good times everyone had and all the stories he would tell. And hopefully he rests in peace, and that's it.
All right, he did much better than I anticipated, so watch out. Okay. My dad was an amazing father. He was intelligent, caring, compassionate, and truly loved by everyone. And he really just loved life. He met my mom when he was 16. He lived next door to her best friend. They dated for a while and broke up for a year, which I recently just found out about, and then reconnected at a party. Since that party, they have never been apart again. I always admired my dad's work ethic. For most of my life, he worked 6 days a week and most nights. No matter what, he made us a priority. He was home for dinner every night growing up, unless it was Tuesday, where he went with his crew to Ponzio's. Or they went with his crew, I should say. He never missed a birthday, anniversary, or holiday, which I think I get from him. I have so many memories flooding through my thoughts this past week. And one sweet one was when I was little, and he would just sit down and color with me. He never got out of the lines. It was just, I tried to just copy him exactly. Fast forward many years later, my dad loved being a grandfather, as much and perhaps a little more than being a dad. He cherished all his grandchildren. We had dinner together almost every Sunday and had so many fun vacations. He loved hearing everything his children and grandchildren were doing in their lives, from school to jobs and everything in between. He smiled, was engaged completely, and wanted to hear every detail. One of the most noteworthy traits my dad had was the ability to tell a story, which my family tells me I did not get from him. Thanks to his incredible memory, his stories were detailed to the point of the color of his shirt. We loved hearing every story. Sometimes he would repeat them, but every now and again, there would be an exciting new story in the mix. We would laugh, ask follow-up questions, which he always had answers to, and which is something that I will always remember. We had such a beautiful relationship, and these last 15 months, we spent a lot of time together. And in some ways, we started taking care of him instead of him taking care of us. And that was just so incredibly hard for him. When he knew things were not going well, he started planning. He had many talks and what he called meetings, and he gave us all jobs. This was all to ensure that my mom was taken care of. He would check on us constantly to make sure these jobs were being done in a timely fashion. He was amazing. You guided me to be the person I am today. You always encouraged and supported me with so much love in whatever I did. I thank you so much for that. Dad, as we promised you, we will always take care of Mom. We love you, May you rest easy, watch TV, play tennis, and eat waffles on Sundays, and finally be at peace. I love you, Dad.
Well, as usual, I'm the last to do anything. Just trying to get through this. I've had many conversations over the past months and weeks with my dad. So many memories, so many stories. I bet you didn't know that he played a mean game of jacks. I said yes, the 6'4" man had mad skills. Carol and I never stood a chance. I remember football catches on the front lawn. Between Michael and you, I learned how to throw the perfect spiral. If the Eagles ever call, I'm ready to suit up. I remember fun days playing tennis with you. You were always my best coach. You taught me how to hit with power that matched yours. We had amazing rallies. I loved looking at you smiling at me and shouting out I was awesome. I remember one time after playing tennis with you, we stopped at 7-Eleven. I wanted a Slurpee. You told me you never had one before. I said, how is that possible? I said, you need to get one. So we both got cherry Slurpees, and we sat in the parking lot. You drank yours too fast and got a brain freeze. I said, we just both sat there laughing even while you were holding your head. During my grown-up years, I've gone through several challenges. And I would come to you lost, scared, overwhelmed with tears in my eyes. You would put your arms around me and hug me close. You would whisper in my ear, everything is going to be okay. I'm your daddy. I love you, and I promise everything is going to be okay. Tell me you believe me, and I would. You gave me your strength when I was weak. You never judged me and always accepted me just as I am. And let's face it, I can be difficult at times. You showed me what unconditional love truly means. You were my safe place to fall, where I felt protected and loved. So here I am, facing the most heartbreaking time of my life. But if I stand very still, I can feel your arms around me. I can hear you whisper in my ear, everything's going to be okay. I'm your daddy. I love you, and I promise everything's going to be okay. Tell me you believe me. I believe you, Daddy. I love you.
It's with these powerful thoughts and memories and dedications in mind that we move to El Malei Rachamim, the central prayer of a Jewish funeral service, which asks God to grant Ted perfect rest on the wings of God's divine presence. If you're physically able, I invite you to please rise. I'll read it first in the English, followed by chanting in the Hebrew. O God, full of compassion, who dwells on high, grant true rest upon the wings of the Shekhinah, the divine presence, in the exalted spheres of the holy and pure, who shine as a resplendence of the firmament to the soul of Ted Spivak, who has gone to his eternal home. For charity has been donated in remembrance of his soul. May his place of rest be in the Garden of Eden. Therefore, may the All-Merciful One shelter him with the cover of God's wings forever and bind his soul in the bond of life. Adonai is his heritage. May he rest in his resting place in peace, and let us say, Amen. El Malei Rachamim, Shochen Bamromim, Hamitzei menucha nechona al kanfei hashchina b'malot kedoshim utehorim kezohar harakia mazhirim et nishmat Tuvia Pesach ben Rivka shehalach le'olamo ba'avor shenadvu tzadaka ba'ad hazkarat nishmato b'gan eden dehe menuchato lachen bal harachamim yasti rehu b'seter kenafav le'olamim v'tzror b'tzror hachayim et nishmato Adonai hu nachalato v'yanuach al mishkavo b'shalom v'nomar amen. Please be seated once again. Our time together here at the chapel is drawing to a close. Immediately following those going to the cemetery, we'll make our way in processional to Locustwood on Route 70. The family requests that donations in lieu of flowers please be made to and/or the Jewish Federation of Southern New Jersey or the Samaritan Healthcare and Hospice. Additionally, the family will be accepting visits of consolation beginning after the cemetery, if you're not going to the cemetery, after around 3 o'clock, with a Shiva Minyan called for 6:30 p.m. this evening at Mike and Susan's home, which is at 509 Knights Place in Cherry Hill, Knights, 509 Knights Place. Again, beginning at 3 o'clock with a Shiva Minyan at 6:30.